How excited we are to have the opportunity to represent the people of West Texas and the Panhandle as we go to Austin in January. It's been our pleasure to kind of travel. We're now 45 counties. We stretch all the way from El Dorado to the top of the Panhandle. We go from west of Monahans over to Colorado City, and I can tell you I grew up here in Midland, and I believe, and now we have confirmed, we have the best people in the state of Texas. Give yourselves a hand. I'm telling you, our communities are strong because we are people of faith. We work hard. We give back to our communities. We believe in our families. And I'm telling you, it's critical that we go out and drag all of our friends to the polls. It's going to be West Texas that gets the vote out, and we offset all of those voters coming from Dallas and Austin and Houston and San Antonio. I'm telling you, it's imperative. And you guys, really, you've got to talk to your neighbors and friends. You've got to talk to your folks at church this weekend. We've got another day tomorrow, and then Tuesday we've got to turn out in huge numbers. So, I'm sorry. Oh. Got to turn out on Tuesday. We've been up in the Panhandle all week, so we just blew in from Amarillo about 30 minutes ago, so forgive me. Tuesday, we got to get everybody to the polls. We're going to have a huge day, and we are going to show the Democrats and all the Democratic Party that we are not about to bow down to any of their policies. In my lifetime, there has never been a more distinction between two parties and two administrations than we've seen in the last 2 years. We went from being energy independent out here in West Texas, thanks to you guys, to now having a president that has gone over to Saudi Arabia to beg for them to put out more crude. We've got things that are happening socially and in our schools that 5 years ago we would never have dreamed would ever take place here in Texas. We've got to have a resounding defeat come Tuesday to show not just Texas but all of our nation those policies aren't acceptable here in the United States. So I want to just thank you guys for all of the support that you've given Jill and I in the campaign. I tell you, and I'll make you this promise, we're going to go represent your values in Austin. We are for limited government. We are for liberty for the individual. We are for the hardworking families, not just in West Texas and the Panhandle, but for the whole state of Texas. That's what Texas is all about. Thank you for doing that. And I am so excited that we have drawn this kind of crowd in Midland, Texas for our governor. Governor Abbott has consistently been a friend to our values for rural Texas and especially for the oil and gas industry. He has, going all the way back to when he was Attorney General and he was pushing back against D.C., and he's continuing to do that as a governor. We can't afford to have anybody else in that seat besides Governor Abbott. So without further ado, I'd like a huge welcome for Speaker Tom Craddock.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I can't believe this many people are here in this windstorm, but and it's just West Texas. We're glad to be here. I'm actually here to introduce Governor Abbott, and I'm not sure. I think he's in the building over here, so Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm here to introduce Governor Abbott. Is he here? Okay. All right. So what I did was, there's a lot to say to someone like for Governor Abbott. So I went and I wrote down about 5 or 6 things that I think make a big difference to the people in West Texas, and I thought that's what I'd kind of mention to you about. But first of all, let me say, Governor Abbott, if you look back through the years, and I've served under a bunch of governors, has got to have the best background of anybody else. He's been on the Supreme Court, he's been the Attorney General, and been governor, and I don't think you can find anybody more qualified to serve, again, as governor of the state of Texas as he is. And he for sure is more qualified than the one who's running against him, I'll tell you that. So he's got the experience. He's expanded in government. What he's done for the government in the state is unbelievable. We've got more jobs in the state. We've got more diversified industries than we've ever had in the state. We've got a lot of people move into the state. I kind of wish some of them moved back to California, but we've got a lot of them moving into the state, and we've got a lot of companies coming in. You ought to come to Austin because it's unbelievable down there. You've never seen any of those people before, and they're totally different. But anyway, he's really done a great job promoting the growth, not just numbers. He also, the southern border, the border which the federal government has not done a good job of since Trump left. And so what we've got is a situation, the southern border, the governor advocated, pushed for, that they use state dollars to help complete the southern border. And that's helped a lot. It's obviously not solved the situation, and we still need to complete the wall, in my opinion, down in the south. There's a good sign back there, secure our border, so we're glad to have you. The other thing about the border is this. Governor Abbott called out the National Guard when the federal government would not come in and put people in front of the border to defend the border. He's the one that called in the National Guard and put them out. And I think we owe him a great deal of thanks for that. And being so that everybody in this room is somehow tied to energy, Governor Abbott stood up for the energy industry, and he's been for the industry that we see out here, not Russia and Saudi Arabia, but for the people in the United States and Texas, and that's a real key. And he's been there for us all the way through. If you look at your property taxes, and everybody in here is going to say, yeah, mine are up. Well, so are mine. But anyway, they're a lot lower than they could be in the state. And Governor Abbott has been advocating that we lower property taxes. We use some of this huge excess we've got in our budget in this next session of the legislature to lower your property taxes again. Well, we need to not only lower them, we need to hook it so that they can't be raised back up the next session that the taxing entities meet. A couple other things. One thing that I really like that he did, these cities that went in and defunded the police, a lot of them across the state, well, he defunded those cities of state law. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? I can't. Okay, well, he's telling me that kind of like, too bad. So I'm sorry. I just said that I think one of the main things that I wrote down that I'm really proud of Governor Abbott is any cities in the state of Texas that defunded the police, he went in and defunded them of state dollars. And then many of you in here are parents, and one thing he has done is he stood up for parents having the right on what their children do in schools, what schools they go to, and to give you the rights you should have to take care of your own children and have the right to have the say of how they're brought up. So these are just a few of the things that in his administration has really helped the state of Texas. So are we ready? And so let me do this. Let me introduce the governor to you and say thank you, Governor Abbott, for coming. We appreciate you. Appreciate all of y'all coming. And of course, Michael's is a great place to do it. And thanks to them for doing this and for feeding all of you while they're at it. All right.
Yep. Come on through. Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Governor. Good to see you, man. Good luck to you. Howdy, Midland, Texas. Great to be with you all. Thank you, Tom Craddock. Thank you, Kevin Sparks. Let me tell you, I'm out here for one reason. To tell you, we are going to win in 2022. But just as important, let me tell you why and how we're going to win, because I'm going to tell you what I want you to repeat to your friends, to your neighbors, to anybody that you may be aware of who have not yet voted. We need to explain to them the difference between the success that we have achieved because of our conservative policies versus what would happen under the radical leftist woke agenda if Beto O'Rourke is elected to be governor. Well, guess what? We will not let that happen. Let's go issue by issue about matters that are concerned to you as well as to our fellow Texans and fellow Americans. One is jobs, the economy, and inflation caused by Joe Biden. So know this, you cannot be in a better state because Texas ranks #1 for the strongest, fastest growing economy of any state in the United States of America. Since you all last re-elected me to be your governor, Texas has added far more jobs than any other state in the entire country. But listen, we cannot take that for granted because what Beto O'Rourke has been talking about I know I get the name wrong. What Robert Francis O'Rourke has been talking about, he's been talking about increasing your taxes, increasing regulations, and increasing spending your money. All that would do would be to destroy the economic miracle that we have in the state of Texas, as well as increase your inflation even more. Well, I am running for re-election to keep Texas the #1 state in America for jobs and the economy. And near and dear to your hearts, I am running for re-election to keep Texas #1 for oil and gas production. Listen, Robert Francis O'Rourke sees it differently. Robert Francis O'Rourke, he embraced the radical left idea of the Green New Deal that would destroy oil and gas production. Let me tell you, there will be people in this room who will lose a job if he gets elected. Hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs in the oil and gas sector will be eliminated under his program, as well as oil and gas production, and that would cause the price that you pay at the pump to go up even more. Well, I am running for re-election to keep Texas the #1 state for oil and gas production. Well, because Texas has the strongest economy in the United States and because people in the Permian Basin have done more than your share to contribute to that economy, Texas is sitting on a record-setting budget surplus of $27 billion. And we have to spend that in the next 2 years. And we will spend it to improve our schools. We will spend it to address health care. But let me ask you this question. Whose money is that? You're right. It is your money. So I want to make sure we take at least half of that money and return it to you with the largest property tax cut in the history of Texas. But listen, this election is about far more than just economics. And speaking of economics, I cannot forget to tell you this. As it concerns property taxes, you need to know, and you need to tell your friends who may be going to vote today or on Tuesday. There's only one person in this race for governor who has actually raised property taxes, and that is Robert Francis O'Rourke, who raised them 3 times when he was on the city council of El Paso. We do not need anybody in the governor's office who has ever raised your property taxes. Elect me, and I will cut your property taxes, period. But listen, I also am running for re-election to keep the radical left wokeism out of our schools. Our schools are for education, not indoctrination. So I worked with Tom Craddock this past session, and we passed not 1, but 2 laws banning the teaching or use of critical race theory in our schools. But we all know what's going on in some of our schools. I can't tell you for a fact what's happening here in Midland. I can tell you for a fact what's going on in places like Austin and elsewhere. And that is they are brainwashing our kids with a leftist radical political agenda and even sexualizing kids in our classrooms. And it's unacceptable what they're doing to our kids, and we're not going to allow it. I will not allow your taxpayer dollars to be used to teach our kids to hate each other or to hate our country. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, and these kids need to be taught reading and writing, math and science. They need to learn the fundamentals and stop with all the political agenda in our classrooms. They have to be able to perpetuate how America became the greatest country. And one group of people who helped achieve that, many are in the room here today. They're the men and women who wore the uniform of the mightiest military in the history of the world. If you have ever served in the United States military, would you wave your hand so we can see you and thank you for your service to the United States of America? So I have not talked to these service members about this, but I will bet my life none of them signed up for the service or maybe even went into battle for the purpose of perpetuating socialism in the United States of America. The ideas and policies that we see coming out of these other states, they fought for freedom, and that's what we are fighting for in this election. They sought to keep the world safe, and part of our responsibility is to keep the state safe. And to do that sometimes requires us to push back against these radical, crazy ideas. Everybody here probably has seen on TV all these smash and grab operations where people will go in with a crowbar into some store and smash all the glass and loot and take everything, and it causes those stores to close down. Many of you will see others who are physically harmed in different ways. And one thing you find consistent with wherever that is happening, you find a state or a city that has deprioritized the role that law enforcement is supposed to play, and in some cases even defunded their law enforcement. Defunding law enforcement is deadly. There's one city in the state of Texas that defunded their law enforcement. One guess. Yeah. So pop quiz, you passed it all. Austin, Texas, yeah, too easy. Austin, Texas defunded their police by more than $100 million. Let me tell you something. In Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. Because of what Austin did, I worked with Tom Craddock and other members of the House and Senate, and we made sure that would never happen again, and that's why I signed that law that will defund any city that defunds their police. But even more dangerous than defunding the police is the chaos that's been caused by Joe Biden's and the Democrats' open border policies that are destroying our country. So remember this. This is so important for people to remember. So when you talk to others about it, you'll be very well informed. And that is, it was just 2 years ago, we had the lowest number of border crossings in decades. And the reason for that is because President Trump put 4 policies into place: Remain in Mexico, Title 42 policies, ending catch and release, and building a border wall. And maybe on top of all of that, he said, listen, if you want to come to America, come here legally, not illegally. Well, all of this is about to change. It's going to change on November the 8th. And let me tell you why. That's because Texans and Americans are angry at Joe Biden and the Biden administration for what they've done, and they're going to turn out the vote. And among people who are going to win election on November the 8th are 3 Latinas in Texas who are running for the United States Congress, who are going to defeat Democrats, and they're going to go to Washington, D.C., and the first thing they are going to do is to fire Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And let me tell you what I think the second thing they should do. Have you heard this crazy idea by Joe Biden? Not an idea, they passed it. They want to create 87,000 more IRS agents. So what they need to do, they need to go to Congress and defund those 87,000 IRS agents, and then take all of that money and use it to fund adding more Border Patrol right here in the great state of Texas. But we've been dealing with the chaos caused by the Biden administration, and we will continue to do so until we once again have somebody in the White House who's going to secure our border. What Texas has done, if you go back to the time of George Washington until today, there's only one state in the history of the United States that's ever built its own border wall, and that is the great state of Texas. We have the National Guard on the border that are repelling or turning back people trying to get across the border, and if they make it past them, we have the Texas Department of Public Safety arresting people and either taking them to jail for trespassing in Texas or returning them back to the border. Give it up for the National Guard and DPS officers who are working. Now, some of y'all may have seen on Fox News, and it would only be on Fox News because ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN do not cover this. But on Fox News, what you'll see people who are coming across in single file. They're being led by a cartel member to get across the border, and the cartel member is taking them to a known location that's owned or controlled or operated by the federal government, where they have Border Patrol agents who are not patrolling the border, but they are filling out the paperwork, giving these people the authority to remain in the United States of America. And then they drop them off in small little communities not too far from here or south of here, in Del Rio, in Eagle Pass, and other small towns that have no ability whatsoever to be able to take care of these people. And I was visiting with them this past April, the sheriffs, the police chiefs, the mayors, and the county judges, and they were begging for help because they were having 1,000 people dropped off in their community they could not handle. And I said, I will help you with it. And the next week, we began busing them to Washington, D.C. So why Washington, D.C.? 2 reasons. One, Washington, D.C. is a self-declared sanctuary city. They said, listen, we're more than happy to take them until that actually had to do it. When they had to do it, when they got just a couple of hundred migrants, we can't handle it. They started crying. They started begging for mercy, begging for help, as if this is somebody else has to deal with it. As long as it's Texas dealing with it, that's fine. But by God, the people in Washington, D.C., not in my backyard, was their attitude. So listen, if you noticed, the location we're dropping it off has changed. It changed because your vice president, Kamala Harris, she came out and said, she said the border was secure and that they were doing everything that needed to be done to secure the border. And so I felt a need to be involved in the education process. So now they're being dropped off at the residence of the Vice President of the United States of America. So we were literally sending them only to Washington, D.C. And out of nowhere, this New York Mayor Adams started criticizing me for sending them to New York, which we were not doing. And he kept criticizing and criticizing. And I figured after a while, you know what? If I'm going to get the criticism, I'm going to get the credit. And so we have now been sending them to New York. But get this is important. They've only gotten like 25 or 35,000 migrants. And now the New York mayor is saying they need $1 billion to be able to care for all the migrants they have. Listen, we get that many. We get more than that in a week in Texas. Let me tell you something. If New York gets $1 billion, Texas gets $1 trillion. But there's something that's deadly that's taking place on the border, and y'all know about it. I was here in Midland with your law enforcement agents about a month ago to talk about this. It's this sign right here. Fighting fentanyl is what we're doing. We're fighting fentanyl because when I visited, there was someone there from the hospital. And they made it sound like here in Midland, one person shows up on average per day with a fentanyl overdose. In the United States of America, the leading cause of death of people 18 to 45 is not car wrecks or COVID or cancer. It's fentanyl. In Texas, we lost more than 1,700 people over the past year because of fentanyl. The fentanyl comes from China, goes to Mexico, where the drug cartels lace it onto what look to be valid prescription drugs that people will take, and one pill will kill. And I am tired and fed up with the Mexican drug cartels, and that's why, actually, right here in Midland, Texas, I announced that I am declaring the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and we are going to go after them. Listen, there's a lot at stake in this election, a lot on the line in this election. There's your job. There's your taxes. There's your safety. There's your freedom. There's your family. But something more important than all of that that's unique to the people of the Permian Basin, and that's your values. I know the values of the folks out here. So it was mentioned earlier about my connection to West Texas. Let me elaborate for just a second. My dad was born in rural Texas. I didn't say rural Texas. Probably don't know where that is. But then he grew up in Pecos, Texas. My family roots are deep into West Texas. And I know your heart, your soul, and your values. And I know your values are far different than the values that Beto wants to impose on our state. But here's what you need to know. I got to make this personal to you, because what's going to happen on Tuesday night is, but hold on, the winner or loser of this race is not going to be me. The winner or loser of this race is going to be you. It's going to be you, your families, your children, and your future. But as we speak, Beto is trying to take a sledgehammer to that future and obliterate it and replace it with his vision of a radical leftist agenda. And I will not let that happen because I will beat Beto on November the 8th. But know this. It doesn't take speeches to win elections. It takes votes to win elections. Now, I know that many of you have already voted, and that's fantastic. But I know some, say it again. There you go. But hold on. I know some people have not yet voted, and I'm going to do you a favor. What is it? It's not even 5 o'clock yet. Okay, our early voting closes down tonight at 7, right? All right. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to stop talking in 1 minute. And then I'm going to stay here and take a picture with anybody who wants a picture. But then after that, if you have not voted, I need you to go vote. And I have down here that the closest voting location is Midland County Elections Office Annex Building. Y'all know where that is? There you go. You're pointing there. 2110 North A Street. So I have here is 1/2 mile. Listen, let me tell you something. If it's a half mile, I'll race you down there. What I can tell you is this. Y'all know how hard the wind is blowing today. If I have wind at my back, I will beat anybody in a race. So So let me tell you this. Y'all are the wind at my back in this race for governor. And I cannot thank you enough. But I need you to do more than vote. I know you feel like you've done your part. You've done what democracy demands of you, and that is to go cast your vote, or you will do that later on tonight or on Tuesday. But I need you to do more. What I need you to do, I need everybody here. And best as I can tell, we got 6, 7, maybe even 800 people in here. I bet that this place has never been this crowded before. I'm looking. You'd love this crowd every night, right? There you go. So I need everybody here to use what's in your hand or your purse or your pocket, and that's your phone. Your phone has something my phone does not have. Has your own contacts. If everybody here goes to 100 of their contacts and sends one short message to each of them after you leave here tonight, say, go vote for Governor Abbott on Election Day this coming Tuesday. You got to do that. But you got to do it every single day, because they will ignore you the first day. They will ignore you the second day. And you got to keep doing it all the way until 7 p.m. on Tuesday, until one of two things happens. Either they will send you a picture with a sticker that says, yes, I voted, or they send you a reply text saying, if you ever text me again. Either way, you got to make sure you do your part. If you do that, you right here in Midland will have turned out about 50,000 more votes. And on election night, as I'm claiming victory over Beto O'Rourke, I'll say it's because of the people right here in Midland County who helped get me across the finish line. So thank you all, God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.
How about another round of applause for our Governor, Greg Abbott? All right, hey, the governor mentioned if you would like to have your picture made with him, I need you to line up on this side. That would be the west side. They'll take pictures, and then we'll exit out this door on the east side. Up on the east side, we'll exit on the west side.
You got it. Hey.